Hey everyone, AJ here with another vlog for you. Today's video is about weight training in my first trimester. So I'm in my second trimester now, but I'm basically going to do a recap of what changed in my first trimester and how I had to adapt, and then I'll follow up later with another video on my second trimester because I can tell you that things are changing again, as I anticipated they would. But just to give you a little bit of background, I'm not a competitive power lifter or bodybuilder. I do this recreationally. I'm a personal trainer, so I have certifications in different areas. My goals have always been strength driven. Of course, body composition is very important to me too. So, I've used everything from like German volume training and then typical bodybuilding training, and over the years have more shifted towards strength focused programs. So I've used things like Wendler or Cube method is something I've been using recently, and I've used it on and off throughout the years, but it's the program I was using right before I got pregnant. I came out of mountain bike season maintaining the strength that I had built up before mountain bike season, and it was my goal to then increase like my max lifts. So I started back on the Cube method to do that. Just as I was reaching like the 4th week of that, that's when I found, well, actually, I didn't know I was pregnant just yet, but I knew I must be pregnant or something was wrong because I was feeling absolutely horrible. So training got altered right away. And if you want to go back and watch my videos about my nutrition in my first trimester, I'll link those videos in the description of this one so you can go back and check those out, because as you know, if your training is performance driven and your nutrition is not on point, it is going to have a huge effect. The other thing I want to discuss that was not on point was my sleep. My sleep was absolutely horrible during some of my first trimester, the early parts of it especially. Because I did not have morning sickness, I had evening and night sickness. So my sleep and my nutrition were highly compromised, and that's just kind of like the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot of other things going on in your body. So just with that alone, my training needed to be altered. I needed to what we call auto-regulate what I was doing in the gym. And, the first part of that auto-regulation was accepting that, maybe the goals that I had set out to achieve prior to being pregnant were now going to have to be put on hold. So it was the change of mindset. And I really just had to say to myself, right now, all I have to do is keep moving, doing what makes me feel good. And I might have to, like I said, back off on some of those major goals that I had. And that's okay. That's part of this process, and it's, I think, important to accept that right off the bat, because then you might find yourself in a position where your ego is putting you in a place where it might be unsafe. So I'm going to walk you through. I made some notes because I made some notes because I'm pregnant and I can't remember anything. But I'm going to walk you through what had to change. So I was using Cube method, and I was normally training in the later afternoon, early evening. I normally never started training after 5 p.m. 4:30 is usually the latest. I try to start around 2 to 2:30. But because I wasn't feeling good and I was exhausted in the afternoon, I switched my training to morning, and that worked out really well for me. And then I started to realize that I couldn't train every day, or sorry, 2 days in a row. So before I would train 2 days in a row, take a day off, train 2 days, have 2 days off. That would be like where I would follow the Cube method. And then sometimes on that 2-day off span, I would do something not in my program. It might just be mobility work. It might just be stretching, whatever I feel like I needed. It might just be going for a walk, might be going for a leisurely bike ride. But either way, my weight training was about 4 hours a week. Of course, there's a little bit more of like warm up and cool down time that I can tack onto that. But training 2 days in a row was no longer working out for me. I had to train every other day. That's the only way I felt recovered. And some days when I had a horrible sleep because I wasn't feeling well, I had to postpone that training day. And I will be honest, there was a period of time right before I knew I was pregnant, and about, it lasted 3 weeks. So 3 weeks in total there, right at early stages of pregnancy, where I was able to do very, very minimal. So what I'm describing in this video is how it kind of like tapered and what it ended up being for most of my first trimester, but there was a few week period where I was doing a lot less than this. And some days I just had to go for a 30-minute walk, then come home and put my feet up and have a nap. And that's all I felt capable of doing. But this is how it kind of ended up being for the rest of my first trimester. So I was training every other day. Of course, there would still be 2 days off every once in a while because I was still only really weight training 4 days a week. In Cube method, you go in and you do your big lift for the day, so it might be a deadlift or a squat or the bench press or a push press, and then you do your accessory work. I was having no problem with my big lifts. I surprisingly felt awesome when I was doing my big lifts. I didn't have any problem then with bracing my core to lift those heavy loads. I will tell you, and I'm just kind of tinkering with this now, early in second trimester, that is starting to change. So I'm now doing a new program design, and I'm probably going to alter the load that I'm using on those big lifts, probably decreasing them quite a bit, just because bracing my core and having that abdominal pressure, even if it's just for a couple of reps, it's causing discomfort and it just doesn't feel right. And in my opinion, whether you're pregnant or not, if you're doing something that is at all seems sketchy to you, you need to back off, because the last thing you want to do is become injured, because then you can't train at all. And that's the last place you want to be at. So my big lifts felt really, really strong. Like I said, I had those few weeks where everything felt shitty, but that passed. And once I felt better, I would just like auto-regulate, work my way up, see how I felt during my warm-up. If I felt good, I would continue to follow my actual protocol that I was doing. And yeah, the big lifts felt amazing. I felt so good squatting. Squatting, my heavy squats felt amazing. So I did that, and that's changing a little bit now, as I said. Now, the accessory work. That is something I had to adjust. I did not feel great doing a high volume of accessory work. I just didn't have the energy or endurance. So that's where I scaled back. I really auto-regulated my accessory work. I had, I had my program mapped out. I did what I could. I wouldn't push it too hard. I added a little bit more rest than I would in between sets. And, there was days where I would keep the exercise the same and I would drop the weight right down. And I had leg days where I was doing body weight walking lunges, just really focusing on form and contraction and just being stable, not worrying about the fact that, I wasn't having like a 40-pound barbell on my back or anything like that. I was just doing it with body weight. And I would sometimes alter my accessory work where I'd use something with weights and then I'd do a body weight exercise next, and I'd use something with weights and then drop down to do something with just body weight next. And that was a great way to adjust the accessory work volume so that I could recover properly, and most importantly, not leave the gym feeling completely wiped out, because I was feeling so tired later on in the day. I had to make sure, now that I'm training in the morning, that I left myself enough energy to get through my work day. So sometimes my training was only 45 minutes, and that worked really, really well for me. Now, I'm just gonna tackle some of the questions I've received. One of them was about that brace, inter-abdominal pressure when you're bracing to do a big lift. I did not feel any discomfort with that during the first trimester, nor are there really many oxygen issues that you need to worry about at that point, but that's changing now in the second trimester, so just keep that in mind. And then the other question I got was relaxin. Did I feel the effects of relaxin immediately? No, I didn't. I didn't feel it. I still don't really feel it, to be honest with you. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm not aware of it, and keeping that in mind as I'm training. So relaxin is a hormone that is released during pregnancy. It helps ligaments and muscles relax to accommodate the changes that your body is going through and in preparation for childbirth. Like I said, I did not feel unstable when I was doing anything in the gym, which is a common complaint you hear from a lot of women. But I was aware of it, and knowing that this was going on in my body, I made a point of not pushing myself as hard as I normally would. And I don't want to say that I don't always pay extra attention to form, but because I do, but you just want to make sure that you're not ignoring anything that you're feeling or any movement that you're going through. You don't want to rush the movement. But like I said, I can't really talk about this whole relaxin thing because I just have not felt the effects that I've heard other women speak about. So lying on my back to do things like bench press. Yes, I did that during my first trimester. I think the most important thing to realize is that if you're ever doing anything that you feel like lightheaded, dizzy, or nauseous, that's when you need to stop. That's your body sending a signal that there could be an issue with oxygen and you need to stop that. I didn't experience that at all lying down on my back. Once again, when you're bench pressing in the 5 rep range or under, you're lying down for a very short period of time. So I suggest making sure you get up and walk around between reps. I don't know many people that don't, but just so you don't overlook that. That might change in the second trimester. I'm just trying to figure that out right now. But the one thing that did bother me was any pressure on my front, so on my stomach. Now, I wasn't showing or anything at this time, but I had a really crampy pregnancy, or early pregnancy. So, and that was a combination, I'm sure, of everything that's going on, plus your digestion slows down tremendously, so you're kind of constipated half the time. And I don't know if you've ever weight trained when you are constipated, but it's a pretty gross feeling. And I think there's a combination of all that. So, one day in my accessory work, I had bench supported, bent over dumbbell rows, and it just set off like a cramping. And I realized after I pretty much just had to go to the bathroom. But regardless of what the cause was, that was causing me discomfort. So I eliminated any exercise that required putting pressure on my abdomen, like lying on a bench or anything like that. I had reverse hypers in my training protocol at that point. There's no way I was going to lie on my stomach and do reverse hypers. That was an option. So I had to switch out that exercise. And obviously I don't think that's going to be something I'm going to be incorporating now that my belly is growing. So that's something I did have to adjust right off the bat. Did I talk about mindset? Adjusting the mindset at the beginning was probably the most challenging thing, especially because I was so excited to chase after some new PRs. I just kind of had to let that go. I'm not saying I'm not abandoning getting stronger. I just think working in that anything under a 3 rep range is just a little too sketchy for me right now. I just don't feel confident. And you know what? If you don't feel confident doing something, you should not do it. So that's all been adjusted. And I can tell you right now, the first trimester training posed some, interesting challenges and tweaks that needed to be made. I think a lot of them were based on just the massive hormone changes. And of course, what was going on with my diet and my sleep. That was greatly affecting, my training volume. I'm not going to get too much into my second trimester because I'm going to do a second video about that later, or another video about that later, but I'll tell you this. My energy's back, my nutrition is on point, but now my body's changing. So now the training adjustments are going to be more focused on what is, appropriate, not that wasn't a goal in the first trimester, but what is safe, and how I feel comfortable with the changes that my body's going through. And I'm in week 15 right now, so there is going to be a lot of change in the next few weeks. So what might be right and feel good today might not feel good a week from now, and I'll need to make an adjustment. And I think that just having that mindset and knowing that that's the way it's going to be throughout this whole pregnancy is super, super important. So you can design your program and stick to it as long as it feels right, but you're going to have to make changes. There's no question about it. Pregnancy, you know, I read these blogs, they're like, how to train during pregnancy. And it's like, well, I don't know how you could possibly summarize everything based on your whole pregnancy and say that that's going to work, you know, from week 1 to week 40 or whatever it may be, because I'm finding right now that everything is a week-to-week adjustment, and it really needs that level of attention if you want to make safe choices. So that's it for now. I'm going to put this video and my other vlogs about my nutrition in my first trimester in a blog post and summarize it for you guys with what I think is the most important points. And then I'm going to do the same kind of videos once I'm a little further along in my second trimester and summarize for you guys my nutrition and training for the second trimester. Thanks a lot. Talk to you guys later.